What you give power to has power over you. We all live in this social platform world now. If you give power to whether you have a lot of likes or dislikes, if you give power to that in your mind, then it has power over you. I live in the public eye. I'm in front of millions of people every week, every day. I mean, it's like 35, 40 million people a week. And they grade my paper every day and they publish the grade. It's called the overnights in Hollywood. They publish the overnights. They watch your show, they count up all the people that watched it, and they publish that every day. So they grade my paper every day and publish it for the world to see. And then I have all these message boards and all these places that people go, and they render their opinions on the job I did and how well they think I did it. How much power that has over me and how I feel about myself is a function of how much power I give that in my mind. And fortunately, I'm not one of those people that needs to be loved by strangers. I do what I think and believe in my mind and heart is the right thing to do. Is it always right? Of course not. Hell no. But it's always in good faith. And if it's wrong, I just do it over. But I promise you, somebody's going to have a problem with what you do, no matter what you do, so you might as well do what you want to do. And that means getting out of your comfort zone. It means requiring people to treat you with dignity and respect. It means you're going to ask for what you want. You're going to get what you deserve instead of just what's being handed out to you. So those are the external factors that determine who you turned out to be and whether you're living authentically or whether you're not. The external factors, your 10 defining moments, your 7 critical choices, your 5 pivotal people. Identify what they are and then look at them and say, wow, how has that affected who I am today? How has that affected who I am today? It's really harder in this day and time because we get such immediate feedback because of social media. And you have to remember that you're a role model, particularly if you're a parent and you have kids. They're really into this social media. You may not be so much into it, although I bet you probably are, but I can promise you your kids are. Even if your kids are 25 or 30, and certainly if they're 15, 16, 17, they're into social media, and there can be some defining moments created on social media, and there can be some critical choices that involve social media. I've been to Capitol Hill to testify for reauthorization of the Elementary and Secondary Education Act, and they were wanting to know what my thoughts were about allocating money to cyberbullying because so many kids were being impacted by cyberbullying. I said, I'm not one of those people that needs to be loved by strangers. Well, how about you? How about your children? If you're somebody that needs to be loved by somebody you don't even know, then you need to really look at your 1075 and look for what is it that's happened in your life that has made you vulnerable, that has made you hungry for the approval of people that you don't even know. Look, I'm not saying I don't want everybody to love me. Everybody wants everybody to love me. Wouldn't that be great? Wouldn't it be great if you went to the cafeteria and everybody stood up and applauded? That'd be great, wouldn't it? Pulled up to a red light and everybody got out of their car and started cheering you on that you did a great job stopping. Wow, that'd be great. But that's just not the way it works. Not everybody loves you. Not everybody even notices you. And then you get people that are internet trolls and they just spend their time picking on people. I've dealt with so many stories where kids are cyberbullied to death. That would be a defining moment, wouldn't it? And a critical choice to stay plugged into that crap and listen to people bullying you and picking on you. Those are the kind of critical choices that we face today that weren't even in existence when I started doing Dr. Phil. Things have changed. But what I'm asking you to do is go look. And by the way, I'm not assuming you don't like yourself. What I'm saying is you need to know how you got to be who you are, whether you like yourself or whether you don't. Because it's important that you understand your makeup. Nobody's perfect. Everybody has room to improve. Everybody has room to grow. And we all improve with clarity and understanding. These external factors have written on the slate of who you are. And when you go through these, you're going to pick out some things that you go, wow, that has eroded my confidence, or that has made me suspicious or paranoid or vulnerable or oversensitive, whatever it might be. So I want to talk to you now about a 5-step plan of how to change that. It's very doable. The first thing you have to do is isolate the target. What is it? Out of your 10-7-5, pick one thing. Let's not try to leap tall buildings in a single bound. Let's pick one thing to start with. Let's isolate a target. What is it that has happened to you that has left a negative impact? It's eroded your confidence. It's made you question yourself. It's caused you to stay in a comfort zone. It's kept you from reaching your full potential. Whatever it may be, it was a defining moment, a critical choice, or a pivotal person that somehow or another has left you being less than you wish you were. It's kept you from being authentically who you are. Let's identify what it is. And then, and this gets a little bit into internal factors. I introduced this concept last time. It's that of internal dialogue. What are you saying to yourself about it? You have to deal with that. And you remember last time I told you you have to test your thoughts for rationality. Well, you test them for rationality, but you test them for authenticity as well. Is what you're doing as a product of that 10-7-5 event authentically what you want to do? If you're working as an office worker, if you're working as a teacher, if you're working as a pilot, if you're working as whatever, the third step is what I'm doing as a product of what I have identified authentically what I want to do? Is this really what I want to do? Or am I just doing it because it is expected? And the fourth step is what I call AAA. It is to generate an authentically acceptable alternative. AAA. AAA behavior here. This isn't thinking, this is behavior. AAA behavior, authentically acceptable alternative. If you aren't going to continue doing what it is you're doing because of what was written on the slate of who you are, what could you authentically do that would be an acceptable alternative? If it's made you a people pleaser, if it's made you stay in a relationship because you just don't want to assert your real needs, what would be an authentically acceptable alternative? And you might say, you know what, Dr. Phil, I just don't like being a prisoner to these 4 children. They own me. Well, one thing you could do is say, okay, kids, let's get in the car. We're going for a ride. You could take them to the mall, drop them off, and never go back. Okay, that would be one alternative, but it's not authentically acceptable. Abandoning your children might seem like a fun fantasy in the moment, but it is not authentically acceptable because that's not who you are. So what you have to do is say, how can I redefine this relationship? How can I stop being a slave to them? You stay in the relationship, but you redefine it where your rights get asserted instead of just their rights being asserted. And that brings us to the big one. Here's the big one. This is number 5, and I love this one. This is where you generate an MER. An MER, as in minimal effective response. You figure out what is the least thing I can do that is effective. Minimal effective response. We don't need to kill mosquitoes with shotguns. What is the least thing I can do that will change the situation in the direction of authenticity? Now let's talk through an example that might be helpful. I've always said to people that you should not let the sun set on you another day if you haven't said and or done everything you need to say and or do with the people that mean something to you in your life. I say that because we take life for granted. We assume that tomorrow or this weekend we can go tell mom and dad that we love them and appreciate what they've done for us in our lives. That we can tell our spouse how much they mean to us, or our children, or our best friend, or our brothers or sisters. But the truth is, we're not in control of that, and we don't know if you or they will be alive at the end of this sentence. I don't know that I will be alive at the end of this sentence. We don't know that. And that's why I always say, if there's something you need to say, if there's something you need to do it. Do it now. Because there may not be a tomorrow. Now, you may think that sounds awfully morbid, but the fact of the matter is it's not. I've talked about my dad, and I did practice what I preach in that regard. I did get to say the things I needed to say to him before he passed. Some of it was offloading some feelings and venting, and some of it was telling him how much he had meant to me and what he had taught me. Maybe one of the critical choices you have on your list is that you didn't do that until it was too late. And you may be thinking, well, Dr. Phil, I wish that we'd have had this conversation a year ago, but sadly, my mother or father has passed, and so I don't have that opportunity. Well, you know what you do? You do what you can. Maybe you write them a letter. Maybe you go to the cemetery and you read it. Maybe you tell it to people who love them. I don't know. You find that minimal effective response. Maybe your father hurt you and is still alive. And you say, well, okay, I could go over there and march into his office or the shop where he works or whatever and tell him nose to nose, you son of a bitch. Well, okay, that might be a shotgun with a mosquito. Take it in stepwise fashion. What is your minimal effective response? Maybe he's who you need to write a letter to. You first write the letter. Then ask yourself, do I need to mail it? And if you mail it, maybe that's enough. One of the hardest things I've ever done in my life is to forgive people who never even knew they transgressed against me. And I never even told them I was forgiving them. I just did it. That was my MER. I just needed to do that in my heart. I didn't need to tell them, but if I needed to tell them, I would have. So what are the 5 steps here? I said, you go through your 10-7-5, and if there's something on there that you say, okay, that right there, that has written on the slate of who I am. That has made me different than I wish I authentically was. Step 2 is you audit what you're saying to yourself about it. And then step 3 is you test whether the result has been authentically rational. Is what you're saying and doing authentically rational? And then AAA, what is your authentic, acceptable alternative? If you don't want to continue doing that, what can you do that's authentic to you, that is acceptable? And then what's the MER, the minimal effective response that's going to let you out of prison? Because what you give power in your mind has power over you. That prison door locks from the inside. It doesn't lock from the outside. It locks from the inside.